Hello, welcome to Redmen TV. I'm joined by author Simon Hart, who has just written World in Motion, the inside story of Italia '90. We're on the eve of the World Cup now, so I thought we'd get you into the studio. Thanks for taking the time out first and foremost for speaking to us. And wanted to sort of delve into the book and some of the stories and some of how it links to Liverpool and players and all that. But, you know, first and foremost, I suppose, why did you write this book?
We wanted to explore the legacy of a World Cup, which I think for a generation of fans is perhaps, if at least English football fans, is the World Cup. You know, is the only World Cup where England have reached a semi-final that isn't, you know, on home soil as '66 was. You know, you hear about the impact it made in terms of the changes to the rules of the game with the back pass. You hear about what it meant to English football in terms of the opening of a new chapter, you know, creating, I guess, a climate where football was more loved or accepted by advertisers, you know, by television companies. So it helped with usher in that new era of you know, football as a friendly product to people who weren't just your core football fans. But also we wanted to, you know, we know this story of Gaza's tears, but I wanted to ask the question, you know, what did this World Cup mean in other countries? What did it mean around the world? So that was the idea. And
how long did it take you to write the book, and where did you go to research this book?
It took, if we include kind of a bit of reading as research, and then the travels, about 14-15 months. I spent a year doing interviews, went to 11 countries, did about 100 interviews with players from that World Cup, coaches, administrators, fans, journalists, so just to get a mixture of recollections, really.
Obviously John Barnes was playing for us at the time, and obviously England, and you know, his silky skills were massively on show. Have you got any stories from some of the Liverpool players, or tell us about World in Motion, how that came about?
Yeah, I mean, John Barnes, of course, is, you know, immortalised in rap, as it were, with his...
He's up there with Easy E.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Vanilla Ice, with his contribution to you know, to World in Motion. And I spoke to Peter Hook from New Order, or ex-New Order now, about how that song came about, and it was quite amateurish, you might say.
Okay.
Obviously, the end product was New Order's only ever #1 song. But you know, when you think England had done these really cheesy World Cup songs up to 1990, I remember going to buy This Time We'll Get It Right at Woolworths in 1982.
Woolworth, I miss Woolworth, you know, the one on Allerton Road I spent so much of my youth in.
Well, that's where I bought World in Motion.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, yeah. That's cool.
But
it's Costa now.
Some things just aren't right. Yeah. But England turned up at the studio in Berkshire, so not far from where they used to train back then. There were 6 players, only 6 of them wanted to turn up. Gaza was one of them. John Barnes, Beardsley with Liverpool players. Who else was there? Des Walker. Steve McMahon. So there's 3 Liverpool players. And they all had to have a go doing the rap. Peter Beardsley tried it. Yeah, I think they very quickly realised that was a bad thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like the Scottish FA going to Kenny and going, right, we need someone to do a rap, and Kenny puts his hand up and goes, no, Mr. Dalglish, no.
So Beardsley tried it. Steve McMahon would have tried it, because he had a go, didn't he, on the Anfield rap?
Yeah, he did, right. Yeah.
And I think they clearly realised that John Barnes was the only one capable. But the rap was only half written at this time, and John Barnes had brought Craig Johnson along. So, you know, here's another Liverpool contribution to the England story that I didn't know about until I emailed Craig Johnson about it, and he confirmed that there's a line in the rap. I'm not going to rap it, I'll say it. We ain't no hooligans, this ain't no football song. And
I don't remember that line, you're going to have to put it in context for me.
In the rap. And Craig Johnson he's the one who actually wrote that while they were doing it, with Keith Allen, who was on board. So I think that they drank a lot as well.
Yeah.
Rather a lot. I think New Order might have had some cocaine. That obviously I don't want to say anything that might be scandalous or
allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. England players didn't, but they had lots of drink, and then they did that, a little bit of vocals, and then they went off to open a Top Man somewhere. Glamorous days back then. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's a big Liverpool contribution to the story.
I've got to ask you about it. I've got to ask you about England. I've got to ask you about the semi-final. I've got to ask you about Gaza. I've got to ask you about Pavarotti. So let's start with the England stuff. What did you love about researching this book with regards to that England side?
The Gaza. Does it matter that there's a vibration here in my pocket?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the excitement of the book, although it is well worth a read. But the England story, I suppose, it was such a rags to riches story in a way. Sorry, that's a bit of a cliched way of describing it, but they went from being vilified to being the most loved English football team since 1966. So that's what it struck me, just how vitriolic the papers were about Bobby Robson, who became Sir Bobby Robson, this kind of saintly figure. They were slaughtering him before the World Cup because he'd committed the crime of agreeing to become PSV Eindhoven's manager when the FA wouldn't give him a new contract. So he was given dog's abuse even after the first game. A tabloid newspaper whose name, should I mention them? No. Okay. Whose name I won't mention. They said, Mrs. T, bring them back now to spare us any further, embarrassment. And Robson was getting all this abuse. So England went on this incredible journey, as a term everyone uses these days, but it was an incredible months journey that they went to becoming, semi-finalists. And Gascoigne was at the heart of that. And I don't think we see many English footballers who play without fear in a World Cup. I mean, I spoke to Brian Robson about it, and he said that so many England football teams in the last 15, 16 years, 20 years, they kind of play this dodgy football in tournaments. It feels like the pressure gets to them, whereas Gaza was just this complete... Okay, he was off his head, really, but he was this free spirit, and that rubbed off on the rest of the players. So, and some of the stuff they got up to, Brian Robson, before the opening game England played, he had a worry with his Achilles problem, but the team went out for a drink, and after they got back to the hotel, Brian Robson went to Gaza's room, which he shared with Chris Waddle. Gaza was on the bed, and Brian Robson tried to lift up the bed and tip him off, and he drops the bed on his toe. Oh, no. So here's the England captain a few days before the opening game of the World Cup, and he's just lost his toe now because he was trying to flip Gaza off a bed. So you those kind of stories and just the kind of the drinking that went on and just the mischief is something that I suppose you can't have today. And I think the same happened with the Irish. It created a tightness, I think, as groups. And I know England are trying to. I think Gareth Southgate remembers what it was like Euro '96 because he was part of that, and he saw. They had a good time as well. We remember the dentist chair. Yeah. So Southgate's mindful of the need to, he obviously works in an environment where sports science is important and, being very sensible. But he also wants them to be a bit more relaxed. Cultivating team spirit. Yeah. It's what Jurgen Klopp does at Liverpool, isn't it? You can see the togetherness when these lads play on the pitch. You can see they enjoy playing with each other, and you could see back then England were as well, and in 1996 as well when we hosted the Euros there, you could see that. So I can understand why Southgate would really like to do that. Okay, so where can we get this book then? What do I say? All good bookshops.
All good bookshops, yeah.
And
Amazon.
Amazon and the publisher, the Coubertin Books, their website as well. And if you're watching this from Ireland, there's an Irish edition which has got Packy Bonner and Andy Townsend on the front cover. Okay. So that's for the Irish fans.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah. Look at that. You can't ask for more, can you? Well, listen, Simon, thanks very much for taking the time to speak to us. Hope the book sales go really well. I've really enjoyed speaking to you and hearing a little bit about the book, and you'll have to get us a copy. I would like to read it myself. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the Redmen TV on YouTube, and we'll see you next time on the Redmen TV.